everyone, it's Desiree, and I am back with part 2 of the Simon Says September 2017 card kit. So for the first card, again, we're going to start with a top folding card base, and on the white panel, I'm going to create a rainbow strip along the side. This stamp set came with just a strip, a stamp, and it was a solid long rectangle. So I'm placing that in my stamp positioner tool, and then I'm going to grab my memento inks, my dewdrops, of course, in rainbow color. So this kind of takes a while for me to position because it sticks to your finger. It's amazing. So once that's positioned, we're going to ink across this strip, and we're going to make sure that it overlaps slightly. So we grab the first, and then we're going to continue through. This doesn't really ruin your pads because you're not going on top of it, and you can see that it's starting to blend. Now the memento inks, they will balance themselves out, but I did stamp that just a couple times just to get that smooth transition. I then grabbed the thin happy birthday stamp and used my VersaFine black Onyx ink to stamp just above that line. I also used the stitch rectangle die from Fawn, and now I'm grabbing the peekaboo window from My Favorite Things, and I've used that along the opposite side because in this area I've cut some more strips from that piece of cardstock, and we're just going to place them, and I'm going to stagger them, and when I adhere them they're going to be layered. So you'll see me that I use foam tape and regular glue to put these into position. So I'm using the strip with the ice cream cones, and then I've applied foam tape to the hearts and the hello sentiment line. Once they're in place, I'm going to trim the edges to make it even. And then just make sure everything's secured. And now we're going to work on those windows. So I've cut 3 small squares from different cardstocks, and I'm just going to glue them in the back of these openings, making sure that the edges aren't showing. I'm going to grab the puffy stickers that came in the kit, and I'm going to put these in the windows, making sure to push them down in the opening so that it doesn't look like they're floating. Then I'm grabbing some of these small puffy dots and just putting them onto the bottom right-hand corner just to add a level of decoration there. Grabbing a piece of fun foam again, adhering that, and then going to adhere that to the card base. Simple card, but it's kind of cute and it is interactive. I'm going to grab my Spectrum Noir, and I'm going to apply the glitter to the hearts along that line just to add a level of accent. And of course, can't have too much glitter. And that's card number 6. For card number 7, I chose the pink card base. And on this white panel, I chose a lot of the strips and some of the solids from the cardstock that we had, and just cut them in different widths. And now I'm just adhering them on an angle on this white card base. I used the My Favorite Things Wonky rectangle die, a smaller section of it, And you can see I'm just adhering these down flat onto this card. Then I'm going to trim that to make it even. And I wanted the stitches to show on this panel. I didn't want the stitches to be hidden by the strips. So that's where I did pull in this rectangle die. And now we've got the stitches all going around there. Grabbed that long elongated happy birthday stamp and using my VersaFine black ink. And we're going to stamp that along the diagonal just so that we have a sentiment on this. And I've already I stamped a bunch of these hearts, so I have them sitting off. And this is on the Canson Watercolor XL paper. It's basically my favorite, that or the Canson Bristol. I like using that as well. And for this coloring, I've actually pulled out, I do have the collection of Zig Clean watercolor brushes. And we're going to use them this time, of course, in rainbow colors to paint this heart. So you can see I'm only putting the color at one end and I'm using my aqua brush to pull it over. And these have a lot of pigment, so you don't need much when it comes to these. You don't have to use a watercolor brush. You can actually just paint straight on this and you can blend the colors and so forth. I just like the look of the blending that goes from one side to another. If you think you have too much pigment because it's not showing the different shades of the color, then just use a paper towel to sop some of the water up. And then also to create that shading, just put your water brush in and then clean it off, and then that'll help you to continue to pull it through. I'm not showing, for this one I'm showing all of the coloring. I know in the other videos I did not. If any of you are interested in seeing this type of coloring in more detail, please just let me know in the comments and I would be more than happy to put one of those videos together. So now we're going to, I just heat set it just to make sure that it's dry. And now we're going to fussy cut it with a white border. And that's going to sit up in that upper corner of this small panel. I'm pulling out one of my Distress Side inks and having problems opening it. And I'm using the candle. So I'm going to position that right underneath the heart. So the candle is actually going to come out of the center of the heart. And remember, with your Distress Oxides, they are a dye pigment hybrid. It's a mix. So they do take longer to dry than regular dyes. So that's why I just hit it with a heat gun, just to make sure that it wouldn't smear, because that's what I always do. I adhered the panel using Fun Foam again onto this, and you can see I've got a nice border from the card base that will accent what's going on the panel that I applied. Applying foam tape to the back of the heart, and we're going to adhere that onto the base on top of the candle. Sequins are making an appearance, so we're going to put those around the piece. And then, of course, the Spectrum Noir glitter pen. And just applying that to a couple of the strips to give just a little bit of shimmer. That's card number 7. So for card number 8, it's really not a card, but I had those tags left. And remember, I cut one of them in half, and then I had the solid ones. So I grabbed a couple of my my chocolates, which are awesome. And I'm just wrapping them in cardstock. And you notice I folded over the edges and so forth. So I'm grabbing the tags that are still together, And I'm scoring 1/4 of an inch on each side of the original fold line that's sitting on these. I'm making sure these creases using my bone folder or sharp. And then I stamped the heart, the rainbow, and the clouds. And for this coloring medium, I'm using, this is one of my favorite, the watercolor pencils, the Inktense Derwent pencils. I love these pencils. They are absolutely fantastic. You can see just how much little of the pencil that I'm putting down. These are so vibrant. And I'm just going through and I'm adding some blue to the clouds. Again, did the rainbow colors on the heart. And then I'll also be adding the colors to the rainbow. And now I'm going to use my watercolor pen or my aqua pen. And I'm just going to drag that color out. So you notice when I went around the blue, there was a lot of pigment there. I cleaned off my aqua brush and then went back in so I could get that shading. And that's exactly what you also want to do when it comes to the heart as well, because these are, again, extremely pigmented. A little of this goes a long way. And they're reasonably priced. They do come in different numbered sets. So I encourage you to check it out. I'm going to fussy cut these pieces, of course, with a white border. And I'm going to just adhere them onto some scrap white cardstock. And then we're going to adhere that. So of course the heart's going to go with the heart tag. And you can see the rainbow just comes through the opening that's already cut out onto the tag. And then once we get that adhered in place, we're going to trim around so that it's even. And then we're going to do the same thing when it comes to the rainbow and the cloud. That's going to go into the balloon shape. But of course, first, we're going to stamp the simple happy birthday sentiment on an angle just below the heart. So here I'm putting on the rainbow. You can see how I positioned the cloud. I stamped it with happy birthday. And now I'm just going to put some adhesive on the back of the chocolates. I'm going to set them inside the tag. And you can see the tag is going to fold up around the piece of chocolate. Can be used as a gift tag, could be used as a, you could use another sentiment just to say thank you. So the two tags, the other sides that I had left from the previous project, from the first card that I did, I'm just going to adhere them on the inside so that it hides the piece of scrap that I used. I'm going to repunch the holes in the top using my Crocodile. I'm going to use my black and white twine so that I can close this. I'm going to loop it through and then place a knot at the top. And just because these are not cards, they do not deserve glitter and sequins to accent. So again, I think they're really cute. You can use regular cardstock to make your tags, use a punch to create your own holes. So by all means, you can create these on your own as well. I thought they came out really cute. Yes, we are using a lot of distress inks for card 9. So this is, I didn't show everything, again, keeping the video short. So I'm using that long strip rectangle solid stamp again, and I'm actually going through the rainbow of the distress inks. So I'm inking up the stamp, and then off camera I'm spraying it about 3 times, and then I'm placing it down on my Canson XL watercolor sheet. And then I just continue through the rainbow with this. There is repeat, because I didn't want to pull too many colors. But this came out really sharp, and I did, as I said, spray it 3 or 4 times just to get a lot of water. And I just think this has to be my favorite, my second favorite. I used the sentiment, sending lots of color your way. I thought it fit, fishtailed the black cardstock. Now I'm using my VersaFine ink with the Happy Birthday strip, just placing that in one of the second sections. I'm going to grab my foam squares to apply my sentiment down on the bottom corner. And then I also curl up the fishtails. Just again, I love to mention on cards, using my glitter pen onto the black cardstock, just to make that pop a little bit, add a little bit of shimmer. And now for card number 10. Not using as many colors. And this one, you know, when you get to the last card, you kind of like, okay, what do I want to do? So this one's kind of really out there, but I think it came out really cool. So I'm just taking my ink cubes, of course in a smaller rainbow, and I'm just scraping them along the top. Doesn't look like much, probably thinking, what is she doing? Now I'm going to take my water bottle and I'm going to spray on this. Remember, distress inks react great with water. And what I was looking for was to have the puddles up on the top and then make sure that it dripped down onto the bottom. And that's exactly what I was going for. I could have put more ink in for the yellow to make that stand out. But I really like the way the colors looked. I'm cleaning up the bottom to make sure I don't get any mud when these colors mix. I then grab the solid heart stamp from the kit, and I'm using the same colors that I used for the drips for the hearts. So I'm stamping it 4 times, and then for the last 2, I'm adding water, stamping it 1, and then doing a second generation. So I'm not adding more ink, I'm just using what's left on the stamp. So it looks like they're fading. And I do this for every color that I used along the top. But yeah, when I got to this one, I really struggled on the last card. So I heat set it to make sure it was dry, used my favorite things, Wonky stitch rectangle die. And then I'm sitting here, wasn't quite sure what backing I wanted to use. I wanted to use the cardstock, so I went with the Old Faithful of black cardstock. I think it really made the colors pop and stand out. So I'm using a lot of adhesive on the back of this because it got pretty wet, so it will warp just a little bit. So by using a lot of the adhesive, a strong adhesive, it'll allow it to stay flat. Using Fun Foam to adhere it to my card base. Again, it is still cut as a top folding, so this will now just go to a side folding card. And I just think it looks really sharp. Toyed around for a while when it came to the sentiment. I think I put together 5 different sentiment. So the one that I'm showing now is the one that I actually go with. So I'm using the sentiment, sending lots of color your way, and then I'm going to position the happy birthday next to it, but on a different angle. I'm going to use my white embossing powder, and we're going to heat set that. I've trimmed that down, and I'm going to fishtail the bottom. And I figured this way I want the happy birthday to be read across, and then I put the other sentiment coming down. Added foam tape to the back, and going to adhere it to the card. Amazingly, did not add any glitter or sequins to this. And that's the final card. These are the supplies that I actually have left from the kit. So the stickers, of course, the stamp set. This is the cardstock that I actually have left. Usually I hoard all of that. And then here's a final run through of the cards. I hope everybody enjoyed this video. And please hit the subscribe button if you would like to stay more or see more and stay up to date. You can also check out my blog for other projects that I complete and do and list. And please know that all the supplies that I used will be listed below. this video in the description box. Take care, and remember, guys, always be creative.